India-Pakistan War Report 2025. South Asia, home to over a quarter of humanity, is a land where history breathes through every border, and the present pulses with challenges and resilience. From the snow-clad Himalayas to the monsoon-fed deltas, this region has witnessed the rise of empires, the scars of partition, and the echo of global ambitions. Today, it stands at a crossroads of geopolitical friction and cooperation. Ethnic and religious diversity, long-standing border disputes, economic growth, and climate-related catastrophes intertwine in a delicate balance. Whether navigating the turbulence of natural disasters, the heat of regional rivalries, or the cautious dance of diplomacy, South Asia remains one of the most consequential theaters in the modern world. To understand any event here, be it a political uprising, a military escalation, or a humanitarian crisis, is to peel back the layers of a region shaped by both ancient wisdom and urgent modern realities. India and Pakistan, two nations tethered by history, divided by borders, and shadowed by war, remain locked in a tenuous cycle of rivalry, deterrence, and regional consequence. The year 2025 has only intensified these dynamics, casting a spotlight on South Asia's most volatile relationship. As border tensions reignite and international alliances shift, the region once again finds itself poised on a knife's edge. The legacy of tension. Since the partition of 1947, India and Pakistan have fought three major wars and countless border skirmishes, most centered around the disputed territory of Jammu and Kashmir. The 2021 ceasefire agreement between the two countries marked a rare pause in hostilities, but like others before it, the silence proved temporary. By January 2025, Pakistani military officials accused India of breaching the ceasefire near the Neelam Valley, triggering a cascade of retaliatory fire exchanges along the Line of Control, LOC. India, in turn, claimed Pakistan was sheltering insurgent groups responsible for multiple IED attacks on army convoys in Poonch and Rajouri. As accusations mounted, the LOC again became a zone of live ammunition, civilian evacuations, and nightly artillery duels. Tactical movements and military posturing. Throughout the spring and early summer, India significantly bolstered its military infrastructure along the western frontier. The Indian Army deployed fresh troops to high-altitude positions near Siachen and reinforced armored regiments in Punjab. Pakistan responded by relocating artillery units and conducting joint combat readiness drills with Chinese advisors near Gilgit-Baltistan. Satellite imagery confirmed new trench systems and logistics hubs under development on both sides of the LOC. Drone footage, some leaked, others officially released, depicted escalating activity, including a mid-March incident where an Indian quadcopter was reportedly shot down 300 meters inside Pakistani airspace. Despite sporadic attempts at military-to-military de-escalation hotlines, the lack of sustained dialogue fueled speculation about potential surgical strikes or even mobilization along broader fronts. Political turbulence and diplomatic breakdown. In India, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's administration doubled down on nationalist rhetoric, pointing to Pakistan as both a security threat and a destabilizing force in Afghanistan and Central Asia. A controversial bill mandating stricter surveillance of cross-border communications passed in the Indian parliament with overwhelming support, though critics accused it of deepening communal tensions and infringing on civil liberties. In Pakistan, the civilian government, led by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, continued to walk a tightrope between appeasing the military establishment and managing a worsening economic crisis. As the Pakistani rupee faced record lows and inflation soared above 30%. Anti-government protests erupted in Karachi, Lahore, and Islamabad. The army's presence in these demonstrations raised eyebrows, with international observers noting the increasing role of the military in civilian affairs, especially on matters related to Kashmir. Diplomatic channels through the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, SAARC, remained inactive. Attempts by the United Arab Emirates to mediate a bilateral summit in Dubai stalled after India declined the invitation, citing ongoing security concerns. Cyber warfare and information conflict. Parallel to traditional hostilities, 2025 has seen a marked rise in cyber attacks originating from both nations. Indian infrastructure websites, including those belonging to railway networks and hydroelectric authorities, were briefly defaced by pro-Pakistan hacker groups claiming retaliation for perceived provocations. Simultaneously, Pakistani telecom networks suffered from distributed denial of service DDoS attacks allegedly traced to India-based actors. Both governments denied official involvement, but the escalation of digital hostilities underscored a dangerous new domain of warfare, where deniability meets destabilization. Social media has become a digital battlefield of its own. Nationalist influencers coordinated disinformation campaigns, and deepfake videos have spread rapidly across Twitter, WhatsApp, and Telegram, often inciting unrest or provoking military responses. Efforts to control the narrative have led to periodic internet shutdowns and increased censorship, particularly in Jammu and Kashmir and Pakistan-administered Gilgit-Baltistan. Natural disasters and domestic crises. While militaries clashed and rhetoric flared, nature delivered its own challenges. In February, a magnitude 6.3 earthquake struck northern Pakistan near Abbottabad, displacing over 12,000 residents and damaging dozens of key infrastructure points, including a regional power station. Relief efforts were hampered by landslides and harsh winter conditions, leading to sharp criticism of Pakistan's emergency preparedness. Meanwhile, India's northeastern state of Assam was inundated by torrential flooding in early April, with over 1.2 million people affected. The Brahmaputra River breached multiple embankments, submerging farmlands and sparking mass evacuations. Both events further strained national budgets and emergency services. In both countries, the inability to coordinate environmental responses, despite decades of shared monsoon forecasting and disaster modeling, exposed the consequences of prolonged hostility. Nuclear deterrence and strategic ambiguity. Though actual military conflict remained limited to border clashes and artillery exchanges, the nuclear undertone of India-Pakistan relations has never been more pronounced. In May, India conducted a test of its Agni V intercontinental ballistic missile, prompting international concern. While New Delhi claimed it was a scheduled readiness exercise, Pakistan viewed the timing as a threat. In response, Islamabad carried out a test of its Ababil missile system, capable of carrying multiple warheads, just 2 weeks later. The tit-for-tat maneuvering reignited global fears about the fragility of deterrence between the two nuclear-armed neighbors. Statements from both sides reflected hardened positions. Indian Defense Minister Rajnath Singh reiterated the no first use doctrine, but noted that policy may evolve depending on the threat environment. Meanwhile, Pakistan's Foreign Office issued a statement warning that strategic calculations should not be misread as hesitation. Despite pressure from the United States and European Union to resume back-channel diplomacy, neither nation showed substantive willingness to soften their postures. Confidence-building measures, such as cross-border pilgrimages or trade initiatives, remained suspended. International implications and strategic alignments. The regional conflict has not remained a local matter. China continues to deepen its relationship with Pakistan through the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, CPS, which now includes forward operating bases, allegedly doubling as listening posts near the Karakoram Highway. India, on the other hand, has accelerated military purchases from France and the United States, including Rafale jets, MQ-9 Reaper drones, and anti-drone defense systems. A renewed intelligence sharing pact between India and Australia was signed in March, expanding New Delhi's visibility in the Indo-Pacific. Meanwhile, Russia has tried to maintain neutrality, offering quiet support for bilateral talks, but providing arms to both countries. Global financial markets have taken notice. Instability in South Asia has led to capital flight from emerging markets and a 3% drop in the rupee and Pakistani rupee values. The World Bank and IMF have warned that further escalation could trigger food shortages, migrant flows, and major disruptions to regional energy projects. The human toll and media blackouts. As is often the case, the greatest cost is borne by civilians. Cross-border shelling in April killed at least 17 people in the Kupwara and Haveli sectors. Dozens of homes were damaged, schools shuttered, and thousands of villagers were relocated to relief camps lacking sufficient food and sanitation. In both countries, media access to front lines has been restricted. Indian journalists have reported heavy surveillance in Kashmir, while Pakistani media outlets have faced temporary bans for reporting on military setbacks or civilian unrest. Activist groups across South Asia have called for greater transparency and accountability, citing growing violations of press freedom and international humanitarian law. The path ahead. As the second half of 2025 begins, hope for diplomatic resolution remains faint but not extinguished. A proposed trilateral meeting between India, Pakistan, and China at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization (SCO) summit may offer a narrow window for dialogue. However, trust remains elusive, and domestic politics in both countries are increasingly dominated by nationalist fervor. Experts warn that the longer both nations maintain an adversarial posture, militarily, digitally, and diplomatically, the greater the risk of miscalculation. A single drone strike, misread radar blip, or political assassination could trigger a cascade of escalation that neither side truly wants. Yet South Asia has endured this tension for over 7 decades. Behind the war games and fiery speeches, there remains a quiet but persistent network of peace builders, journalists, educators, farmers, and artists who dream of a different subcontinent. Whether they will shape the region's future or merely observe its continued fragmentation remains an open question. But one thing is certain, the eyes of the world are once again watching India and Pakistan, and the outcome of their next move could reshape the global order. Perspectives from the front lines, national viewpoints on the conflict. India's viewpoint. From New Delhi's perspective, the ongoing tension with Pakistan is not a manufactured conflict, but a long-standing issue rooted in national security and territorial integrity. The Indian government views Pakistan as both a sponsor and a sanctuary for extremist groups that threaten peace in Jammu and Kashmir and beyond. Officials cite recent insurgent attacks on Indian Army positions traced to Pakistan-based operatives as justification for heightened military presence along the line of control. Indian defense analysts argue that their response has been reactive, not aggressive. India emphasizes its no first use nuclear policy as proof of restraint, while asserting the right to defend its sovereignty. The Modi administration also frames the issue through the lens of regional stability, claiming that India's countermeasures are necessary to deter infiltration, protect civilians, and neutralize terror infrastructure. Domestically, Indian media largely aligns with this narrative, focusing on the valor of Indian soldiers, the threat of cross-border terrorism, and the need for a firm response. However, critics within India, especially opposition politicians and civil society groups, have warned against the erosion of civil liberties in conflict zones, particularly in Kashmir. Nonetheless, the dominant narrative remains one of defensive necessity, with India positioning itself as a responsible power in a dangerous neighborhood. Pakistan's viewpoint. Islamabad views the conflict as the result of Indian aggression and an unjust occupation of Kashmir. The Pakistani government consistently frames its position as a moral and diplomatic struggle for the self-determination of the Kashmiri people. It accuses India of committing human rights abuses in the Kashmir Valley and of using military force to suppress a local population's legitimate demands for autonomy or independence. Pakistan's military leadership argues that its own posture is one of deterrence and national defense. The government rejects accusations of harboring militants, instead pointing to India's revocation of Jammu and Kashmir's special status in 2019 as the true catalyst for the current instability. Officials maintain that Pakistan is open to peace, but only through multilateral dialogue that addresses the status of Kashmir, and restores what they describe as the international legitimacy of the disputed region. Pakistani media echoes this stance, often portraying India as an expansionist power and highlighting civilian casualties from cross-border shelling. Public sentiment remains strongly nationalistic, but some urban political commentators have raised concerns about the financial toll of militarization and the risks of aligning too closely with China in the broader Indo-Pacific rivalry. Internationally, Pakistan seeks diplomatic support from the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, OIC, China, and segments of the United Nations. Still, critics argue that Islamabad's credibility is undermined by its military's dominant role in national politics and its inconsistent approach to counterterrorism enforcement. In South Asia, no event unfolds in isolation. Every decision, disaster, and declaration ripples across borders and generations. The region's complexity is its power and its challenge. As one crisis fades, another often emerges. Yet, through it all, the people endure, governments evolve, and history presses ever forward. Whether nations choose confrontation or cooperation, their actions will continue to shape not just the fate of the subcontinent, but the course of the global South. In this space of legacy and consequence, understanding the forces at play is not just analysis, it is a necessity. The world may look towards South Asia with concern or curiosity, but one truth remains: the heart of the region beats strong, and its story is far from finished.